In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the concept of inheritance in Java. So the most fundamental element of Java is obviously the class. And a class represents an entity and also defines and implements its functionality. So in Java, classes can be derived from other classes. And we do this in order to create more complex relationships. So in other words, whenever a class that is derived from another class, this would be called a subclass and would inherit all fields and methods of its superclass. And in Java, only single inheritance is allowed, and therefore every class can have at most one direct superclass. Let me rephrase this concept so you understand better. Inheritance is simply, think of this as one of the features of the object-oriented programming. And it allows a class to use the properties and methods of another class. So just keep that in mind. So whenever we talk about inheritance, we're specifically talking about a class using the properties and methods of another class. And that's the concept behind the inheritance. So the derived class is also called the subclass, and the base class is also known as the superclass. So just keep these fundamental concepts in mind. Next, let's apply these. I'm going to demonstrate how to use inheritance in Java. So let's go ahead and open up our Java Eclipse editor. So once we're in the Eclipse editor, let me go ahead and simply create a new class. So right click on Java Introduction, simply choose New, and then click on Class. And I'm going to call this Vehicle. We're going to do an example of various cars, and I'll explain what that is once I create this class. So let's click Finish. So here's our public class called Vehicle. So let's use the public class Vehicle as a superclass. And later, we will create another class that's going to inherit its properties and methods. So different vehicles have different features and properties, but there are some features that are common to all, such as maybe speed, color, fuel used, size are few which are common to all. So we create a class called Vehicle with states and actions that are common to all vehicles. And then later we'll create the subclass of this superclass that can be any type of vehicle. So for instance, class Car A has all the features of a vehicle, but it has its own attributes and features as well, which makes it different from other subclasses. And by using inheritance, we need not rewrite the code that we've already used with the vehicle. We simply use what's already available. So the subclass can later also be extended. We can make a class called Sports Car, which extends car. However, it inherits the features of both vehicle and car. So you get the idea. So let's do a complete example. Let me demonstrate. So now it'll be easier for you to follow. So we are going to create a class called Vehicle. So I'm going to remove public for now and just set some properties. So string for color, int for speed, and then the same for size, and some void attributes as well, and open our curly braces. Do some printout, system.out.print. So Java knows that we're actually going to print out the color maybe, and of course the speed and the size. So this will be print in parentheses color colon, and then of course our variable color. Same thing for the size and the speed as well. So system.out.print in, this would be speed, and of course speed again. Close the parentheses and place a semicolon. And last, printout would be system.out.print in, and this would be for the size and of course our size. So just using the above variables. Great. So this is simply a class to display the attributes of the vehicle. So let me in fact place a comment up here. So this is simply creating a class to display the attributes of the vehicle. Great. Now next, I'm going to create a subclass which extends for a vehicle, right? So the vehicle is our superclass, and next I'm going to create a subclass that is basically going to extend, just like we talked before. We are going to extend the vehicle class, which is going to be a subclass and is going to inherit certain properties from the class called vehicle. And this is exactly how you would create the inheritance. So to do this, we do simply class call car and use the extends vehicle, right? So whenever you see extends, that means you're creating a subclass and using inheritance in Java. So the vehicle is with a capital letter. We use the same naming convention and our curly braces. And here I define int as, let's say, cc. Just some properties, int gear, because we might have a sports car that has its own properties. So void attribute, attributes car, and open our curly braces. And let me go ahead and place a comment up here also, so it's easier to follow. So this is a subclass which extends for a vehicle. Great. All right, let's go down. Let me place a comment here also. So the subclass refers to the members of the superclass. Great. Better. All right, let's do some printouts here. So system.out.println, and then I'm going to use the color of car, and of course plus color. And next I'm going to use system.out.println, and this would be the speed of the car, and I'm going to use speed, place a semicolon. Next would be system.out.println, and I'm going to specify the size of car. See what's happening here, right? So I'm just using certain properties from our superclass. And next, system.out.println, and here I'm going to use the cc of car, and of course, and with a semicolon. And let's do another one, system.out.println, and let's use some gears, right? So the number of gears of car, because certain cars have different number of gears, and here I'm going to use gears, semicolon. Great. So at this point it's obvious, right? We're using certain properties and attributes from the superclass, which is our vehicle, for example the color, speed, and size, and then cc and gears we're using from the car class that is extending basically the class called vehicle. Perfect. Next, let's scroll down here. We do our public class called test. Open the curly braces, and of course we use our keywords: public, static, void, main, and use string, argument, brackets, and then open our curly braces once again. Specify car, and then b1, for example, equals new car, and then b1 color equals blue. Of course, specify the speed, so it'll be b1.speed equals 200, because that's an integer. And then b1.size equals, let's say, 22. And b1.cc, cc is the engine size, by the way. If you're wondering what is cc, it is just the power of the engine, right? So this would equal, let's say, 1000 cc, just a small car. And then our gears, right? So b1.gears would equal maybe, let's say, 5 gears for this car. And then attributes car. Perfect. So here's our complete program that demonstrates the concept of inheritance in Java. Let me run through this one more time from the top. So we created a class called vehicle. Let me fix the spellings here. Great. So the class called vehicle is a superclass, specified certain attributes, and then we created a class called car that extends vehicle, and this is where our inheritance starts. And of course, we inherited certain properties from our superclass into this subclass called car, and then we finally gave some values for our public class. So let me go ahead and quickly fix the syntax so Java knows that we're using and since we already have a public static void, the keywords defined, we don't need the public class called test. So I'm just going to get rid of this and just specify the properties here. And of course, remove the curly braces so we have our syntax corrected. Great. So once again, just our superclass, our subclass, and a set of properties, right? Let's run this and see the output. So click on the run option, click OK, and notice the output is not the same because it's trying to run the class called vehicle, but we have a subclass called car, right? So in essence, we would actually need to run the car class to see the output, because that's what we're looking for to do, because it's extending or it's inheriting the properties only for the superclass. So in order to do this, for example, on my left here, Package Explorer, let me expand the vehicle.java, and notice I have the car and then the vehicle as well. So if I were to click on, for example, the car, it's the same program, it just takes me and highlights the car class. If I were to click on the vehicle, obviously the program does not change, nothing happens, just highlights the class called vehicle, right? So if I were to run the vehicle class, I will not get the output. But if I were to run the car class, of course we'll get the output, because that's the class that's simply inheriting the properties. So in order to run the car class, simply right click on car, click on run as, and select Java application, and we will get the results. So let's scroll up. Perfect. So we get the color of the car blue, speed is 200, size is 22, cc of the car is 1000, and number of gears is 5. Great. So just wanted to demonstrate the concept of inheritance in Java. So practice, and let's move to the next lesson.